Good morning. It's a beautiful fall day, and today I'm going to make my applesauce. So for applesauce, I'm doing 3 20-ish pound bags, and I have a little left over from when I made apple slices. I just ran into town to get these. I get them from Walker's. They're $9 a bag. So a little more expensive than deer apples would be. But these are called cider apples, so they're usually drops. So they're usually still firm, but some of them will have a little bit of ick on them. So I'll get them for about 45 cents a pound. So all of these are going to be made into applesauce for the year. So I do have a food mill. So first off, I'm just going to soften everything in the oven. So I grab my big pan like this and just as quick as I can, just give them a chop in half and throw them in. See, they're still look good, but they do have the occasional little brown spot. I have been doing this for about 4 years with these types of apples, and I have no complaints, especially applesauce, but I also make apple slices, and then I make well, this year I made apple scrap jelly with them. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on chopping away, and we will get these started in the oven. I'll add some water to these and put these in the oven as well. That's my first bag of apples gone. So one bag is approximately 20 pounds. I find it's usually like 21, 22 pounds. And I find it takes about 3 pounds of apples to make 1 quart of applesauce. So each bag represents about 7 quarts of applesauce, which is how much my canner holds. So I'm going to get these going in the oven, let them soften up, have a coffee, and then when I come back, I will get these ones going through the sieve and heating up on the stove, and then I'll get my next batch in the oven. Alright, so I just checked on the apples in the oven. I don't like how slow it's taking them to get soft, so I just pop them onto the stove. I only have 2 pots, so just split it between the 2. I'm just letting them boil for maybe 15 minutes. So while those are boiling for 15 minutes, I'm going to get my Johnny applesauce maker together. This is from Roots and Branches. I just bought this on Amazon a couple of years ago. I think it was around $70. I think they're more like $100 now. But if you are going to make applesauce, this will save you a ton of time. The very first time I made applesauce, I did it all by hand in a blender. And it took forever, just all the peeling and coring. This way you don't have to peel or core anything. So you attach the base. This is the only spot in my house this actually fits. There's a spring that goes in here. And there's 2 different augers. I'm using the shorter one. And then this is probably the hardest part. Okay, so I checked on the apples in the oven, and they were taking a very long time to soften, so I just popped them onto the stove instead. I'm just boiling them in some water. They're just about done, so I turned off the heat on those, and I'm going to set up my Roots and Branches Johnny applesauce maker. Just get this off Amazon. I got it a few years ago. It saves a ton of time. So you attach this to your counter. This is the only spot that it actually fits. It doesn't fit on any other counter. You just add the spring, and there's 2 different size augers. This is the shorter one, and this screen is specifically for apples, and I also use it for making tomato sauce. So you just put it on, twist, and then just tighten down the, what do you call that? Set screw. That's where the cores and stuff come out. So the first time I made applesauce, I did it all by hand and peeled and cored, cooked it down, and then put it through a blender. So you need something to catch the cores, and then this is what my apple puree will go into. There. I try to get this covered as much as possible. So it's just hand crank. You can buy a motor for them as well, but. All right, so that's ready to go. And these are my apples. So they're quite soft. Here, I'll bring you over. This is my setup. So there's the apples. They're very soft. And peels and sauce. And I'll just ladle into here and hand crank it. So because I'm using this, I was able to not bother coring or peeling. And it just really saves so much time. I just load this up as much as I can fit in at once, and make sure you get some of the juicy bits down there. I did add probably 2 cups of water to this just to get the apples started. Use this to kind of guide them in, and you just crank. The first little bit, I'm just getting kind of the water. It's the heaviest, so. First bag of apples through the applesauce maker, and this is what I'm left with. Now I could just throw this out, but I'm gonna run this through again because it's still quite wet. When I do tomatoes, I run it through about 3 times because I really want to get every drop out. Whereas applesauce is so much thicker, like you're not gonna boil this down. I just usually run it through 1 extra time. Get the juicy stuff out. I can still see some chunks of apple in there. But with tomatoes, I really am trying to get every little last drop because then you're gonna cook it down. But with apples, applesauce is already pretty thick. So I don't mind if I lose a little bit. And run this through again, and what I've decided to do is, instead of trying to utilize the oven, applesauce takes 20 minutes to process in the canner. So as that's processing, I'm going to get my next batch of apples loaded, and then so as I'm pulling out the applesauce, the next batch should be ready to put through the sieve. And I plan on doing 3 batches.
I'm just going to leave this set up until all my apples are done. That's one advantage of being able to do it all in one day, because it does
as you can see, that's about half the volume. So this is gonna be my waste. And I think I can just give this to the chickens. I'm not sure where there's so many apple seeds in it. I'll have to look it up. But either chickens or compost, either way, there's gonna be more food. So I've just put the apple puree back in my big pot. This is my applesauce. Only thing I have to add to it is acidity in the form of lemon juice and sugar, which is optional. The recipe calls for 6 cups for this size pot. I'm going to do about 2 cups. Says I do like it with a little bit of sweet for the kids, but I don't want it to be just candy because that's applesauce. So in goes half a cup of lemon. You can do the individual jars as well, but I've made this a lot. I know that this is going to be 7 quarts. So half a cup of lemon juice, and then I'm gonna add my 2 cups of sugar. I'm just gonna bring this up to temperature again. It's still really hot. And then I'm gonna go downstairs and I'm gonna grab my 1 liter. Okay, so I just brought this back up to a light boil, and then I just switched the burner off. These were all filled with hot water and I've just poured them out. I poured 2 of them into the bottom of my steam canner. You can water bath can these, it's the same thing. I just enjoy the steam canner because it heats up so quickly. So that's it, there's my 7 jars. I'm just gonna start filling. And now that there's water in this, what I like to do is I just turn this on now. If I turn it on too much before, it'll get too hot. So I don't want to break any jars. So I'm just going to fill these. And applesauce is 1/2 inch headspace. This is a little messy with one hand. So this is going to be about 1/2 inch, but I will debubble and double check. Right, so I've just run a plastic knife through all these and debubbled. And as you can see, this is about 1/2 inch headspace. There's also little tools you can buy, but I'm not sure where mine is. And they're great for debubbling, and you can double check too. But so I just have a paper towel with a little bit of vinegar, and I'm just gonna wipe the edges, and then put on my lids. I like to have my lids all ready to go, close by. And that can go right in the canner. Okay, so my canner just came up to temperature. I'm in the dark green area there, zone 1. So I just clicked it down to low, put my timer on for 20 minutes. I just chopped up my next bin of apples. When these are nice and soft, I'll put them through the mill. I'll get the other pot on to soften. By that time, this should be done and put on cool down. Then I'll be pulling out jars and starting again. Right, so I just processed for 20 minutes and then I did a 5-minute cool down. In the time these were processing, I had my next batch of apples softening on the stove. So I'm just gonna take this batch off. When I take it, I'm gonna put it to the far side here so I can use this for loading up the next batch. And if you see over here, I've just got the next one starting to go through the mill. So here's my completed jars, 24 quarts in total. So there we have it, applesauce for the year, done and on the shelf. So I made a total of 24 liters of applesauce. The cost breakdown was $27 for apples, $1.30 for lemon juice, $1.14 for sugar, which is optional, and an additional $5 for the lids because they are single-use only lids. So for 24 liters, it was $34.44,
or 144 per liter of applesauce. All right, happy canning.